Guys, welcome to my channel. My name is Paul, and in today's video I'll be walking us through on how to set up Windows Server 2025. So without wasting much of our time, let's dive right in. Alright guys, we've got 40 minutes to set up the Windows Server 2025. I repeat, 40 minutes. Let me run us through a list of what we'll be doing within 40 minutes. One, we want to make sure that we have the Windows Server 2025 installed. We also want to make sure that we promote the server to a domain controller. In addition to that, we'll be setting up the DHCP, we'll be setting up the DNS, and also we'll be joining one PC to the DHCP to see how it works. Guys, let's go do this. The first thing you need to do here is to download it from the Microsoft Evaluation Center. All right, I have the website here. If you don't have it, you could basically just go to your search engine, type in Windows Server 2025 and hit enter. It brings you to this page. You just click on this first website. Also make sure it's not a sponsored website. All right, just scroll down slightly and you'll see get started for free. All right on this page, you want to download the Windows Server 2025 ISO. Once you click on this page, it brings you to another screen where you are asked to register for your free trial. Just go ahead, put in your information, your first name, your last name, your email, your company name, the country where you're based. Company size, you could actually choose maybe about 5 to 9, since this is just a test. Put in your job role, put in a phone number, and just click on download now. All right, for the sake of this tutorial, all right, I won't go ahead with all of this because I already have the Windows installation media downloaded on my computer. It took about 5 to 7 minutes, and that depends on the speed of your internet and also how fast your computer is, the architecture and all of that. All right, so I'm just going to minimize this page and then go to my download folder where I have the Windows Server 2025 installation media. If I go to the download folder, you'll see it right here. This is the ISO. All right, so the next thing we want to do is we want to select the appropriate virtual machine, and that depends on you. You can choose VirtualBox, VMware workstation installed on your host machine, and those ones are free of charge. You don't have to pay for that. Okay, so I already have the the VMware Workstation Pro installed on my machine, so I don't have to walk through all of that. So I'm just going to go ahead and double click on it to launch it. It's just going to take a few seconds. It's going to pop up. There you go. All right. Now this is the first thing you will see on the screen, right? It gives you an option to create a new virtual machine. It also gives you an option to open any virtual machine you have previously or just connect to a remote server. Since we are doing a pretty basic installation, so I'm just going to go with creating a new virtual machine. So I'm just going to click on this. All right, now it brings you to this page. So it wants to know if you want to do the typical, virtual machine creation, or just want to go with the custom, which is the advanced setup. That's if you know what you're doing. But let's just leave that and go with the pretty basic one, which is the recommended one. Make sure you tick this box and click on next. All right, now on this screen, you'll be asked if you have this image or you just want to set up the operating system, or you want to go ahead and set up the operating system later. Yeah, I'll just go ahead with that. I want to set up the operating system later. So check this box and I'll click on next. Okay, now it brings you to this page. What kind of operating system are you trying to install? We want to install Microsoft Windows operating system, which is the Windows Server 2025. You see a series of options here. When you click on this drop down, just go ahead and select the Windows Server 2025 in as much as that is the ISO you have. So click on that and hit next. All right, you don't have to worry about this, just leave the default setting and click next. Okay, now it brings you to this page. Well, let me just set a caveat. Depending on the size of your host machine, your hardware computer, that determines the size you put here. If you have up to 500 gig, yeah, you can go ahead with the 60. Split virtual disk into multiple files, that is the default setting, and that is what we want to go with. Then hit next. All right, so this is pretty much what it's already configured. So we'll go ahead and click on finish. All right, if you look on the left side, it's going to display the new virtual machine we just created. Right, so there are still pretty much one or two things we want to configure, right? We want to make sure we have the correct architecture to also help us, boost the speed of the virtual machine. So I'm just going to click on edit. Yeah, I just clicked on edit virtual machine settings. All right, there are three things I want us to work on here. One of them is the memory. I just want to increase it slightly from 2 gig up to about 4 gig. All right, we'll increase the memory. All right, we'll also make some adjustments to the SATA drive and also the network adapter. So let's start with the memory. Let's bump it up to about 4 gig. That's about 4096. Okay, that's what you see here. Okay, done that. Now, moving on to the CD, DVD, SATA drive. All right, we want to connect our ISO. All right, just check this box, use the ISO image, and then browse to the location of that ISO image. I have my ISO image on the download folder. All right, so I'm just going to click on download, select the ISO, and click on open. And the last thing I want to set up here is the network adapter. All right, I want to make sure that my guest machine, which is the virtual machine, is also sharing, it's also using my router, my home router. So I'll be using the bridge network connection. So just select the bridge network connection. So this basically assign an IP address from your router to the virtual machine. Yeah, that works best. I'll also click on replicate the physical network connection states. Then just hit OK. So that's pretty much all the settings we need to do on our virtual machine. Now we can go ahead and power on this virtual machine. I just want to make sure my mic is picking up my voice correctly. All right, you just see me keep on adjusting it. Please bear with me. Just hit OK. Click OK. You'll be prompted to click on a button on your screen. Just quickly do that so it can boot up from the USB. Yeah, go to the Windows setup. I'm going to hit OK or enter. Now it's loading up file. As you all know, installing a new Windows operating system takes a bit of a time. So I'm just going to just speed up through some of these processes so we don't waste so much time. All right, that brings us to this new screen. You want to click on next, since you're sure you'll be using English, both for the language you want to install and also for the time and currency format. Hit next. For the keyboard, US, hit next. I would like to install Windows Server. Of course, that's what we are trying to do. Click on agree to everything. We deleted, we have nothing on it, so there's no reason to be scared. Click next. All right, it's getting a few things ready. It's also going to take a couple of minutes before it takes us to the next screen. All right, now on this screen, you have 4 options. You have 4 Windows operating system options. We have the standard evaluation and we also have the data center evaluation. All right, you want to make sure you're selecting the data center evaluation, the one with the desktop experience. All right, if you're not choosing the desktop experience, you'll be getting the command line experience. So basically, you only be using command line to do whatever you want to do if you're not choosing the desktop experience. So for today's tutorial, we want to go ahead using the desktop experience, which also gives us the graphical user interface. Hit next. All right, we have the applicable notices and license terms. Here, if you have a couple of minutes, you may decide to also go through this, read it, but we all know what it is. So I'm just going to click on accept. So we'll be waiting for a few seconds. All right, now it brings you to this screen to select the location where you want to install the Windows Server. Okay, we have the 60 gig in the virtual machine we created earlier. So let's select that and hit next. All right, so this ideally may take up to about 10 minutes, and that depends on how fast your host machine is and your computer. All right, we'll be right back. Now we are here. Okay, you have a username. You can make any changes to that. Or you have the option of selecting the password. Make sure you have a password with a very, very strong complexity. So I'm just going to put in my password. All right, so once we are done with the passwords, click enter or finish. Now it is finalizing your settings. It's also going to give you a chance to do some basic configuration. Voila, there you go. Now we have the Windows Server 2025 installed on the computer. All right, guys, I'm going to talk to us about some of the few changes that you will notice in Windows Server 2025. Now, compared to other Windows Server, say 2022, 2019, 2016, those Windows Server are running on Windows 10 user interface style. But the Windows Server 2025 adopted the Windows 11 UI style. So that makes it very, very distinctive. I mean, now we have our Windows Server 2025, and this is the Server Manager. So with this Server Manager, we can do quite a lot of things. But first and foremost, there are three most important things that I want to check off our list. And what we need to do is click on Local Server. And there are three things we need to configure at this point in time. One of them is the computer name. Second one is the network adapter right under Ethernet 0. And lastly, we also want to make sure that we are using the correct time zone. Because if you look at the time, my host machine and the guest machine, which is the VM, their time varies, it doesn't sync. So we want to make sure that all this time are in sync. So I'll be starting off with the time zone. I'll click on this right here. That gives me the opportunity to, update the time zone. So I'll be going with, from Pacific time, I'll be switching to Eastern time, US and Canada. I'll click on OK. All right, click on OK. Okay, if you look at the bottom, the time are synced. Now we are sharing the same time. The next thing I want to update is the network adapter. I want to make sure that the Active Directory will be using a static IP address. All right, that is the objective, and you should also do that. Let's give it a moment to populate. There you go. Now, right here, double click on this one. Okay, if you look here, you will discover that an IP address has been dynamically assigned, which is 192.168.1.16. All right, now we want to switch to a static IP address. So I'll click on Properties. Then we will select IPv4, which is the Internet Protocol version 4. Click on that and select Properties. Okay, now we want to use a static IP address. So the IP address I will assign is 192.168.1 and let's see, 40. Our subnet mask will be it will automatically populate, and our default gateway is 192.168.1.1. all right, which is the same as our home router. And for the preferred DNS, I'll just go with the loopback, which is 127.0.0.1. So this basically loops back to our IP address, and that is absolutely fine. So I'll click on OK. All right, click on Close. Hit Close one more time. Okay, should be good. All right, just give it a moment to propagate. Now it has propagated, so we are connected to the network. If we go back here again, you will discover that our IP address is now 192.168.1.40. Okay, all good. I'll click on Close. I will hit Close. We can close this as well. All right, now the last thing we want to do is to update the computer name. Now, how do we do that? You click on this right here. So basically, we want to use a naming convention that is quite unique, and also, it's quite synonymous with the location where we are based. We need to do that here. I'll click on change. So this is where we need to update the computer name, CAN-DC1. So our domain controller is resident in Canada. All right, so that is why I'm using this naming convention. We'll leave it as a work group. You don't have to change it to a domain. We'll do all of that much more later. Click on OK. All right, this would prompt you to restart the computer, or click on close. Now you get an opportunity to restart. We can go ahead and do that. Since we've updated the time zone, we have also changed the network adapter to a static one, and we are changing the computer name. I'll click on restart now. All right, there you go. Let's put in the password one more time. Okay, good to go. All right, now the next thing we want to do is to make sure that we have the Active Directory domain server installed. And to do that, let's click on manage. Let's click on add roles and features. All right, so right on this screen, you can click on next. We are adding role-based or feature-based installation. Make sure that is checked and click on next. All right, also make sure you select the server from the server pool. Make sure that is ticked, and click on your domain controller, which is the CAN DC1. All right, you can see the IP address that was assigned, the static IP address that we assigned to it. All right, click on next. All right, so what we want to install is the Active Directory domain controller, and these are the series of features that comes with it. Click on add features. All right, so once that is done, click on next. So basically, we just have to nest through the rest of it. Or you also see some features that are checked, like the group policy management. You see the Microsoft Defender antivirus and a host of other stuff. You don't have to worry about all of that. Just hit next. All right. So here, things to note. There are two things to note. To help ensure that users can still log on to the network in the case of a server outage, install a minimum of 2 DC for a domain. Well, we might as well do that. That'll be in my next upcoming video. I'll click on next. You don't have to make any changes. All right, this is by default. It will restart. Well, it's going to prompt you to do that. We can also check this box and then click on, yeah, we understand. Click on yes, then click on install. All right, ideally this takes about 2 to 3 minutes to complete. You can just stick around, grab a glass of water while waiting for this to go through. All right, guys, so the configuration just completed. Let's click on close. Okay, yeah, so I'm just going to minimize this, but before we do that, we also need to promote this server to a domain controller. So basically, you can just click on promote this server to a domain controller, and that gives us the opportunity to restart one more time. All right, so what we need to do is you have an option to either set this up to an existing domain or add a new domain to an existing forest or add a new forest. So we are adding a new forest and we'll call it ubertech.local. All right, I'll hit next. All right, if you also want your server to, to be compatible, to be backward compatible with older Windows Server version, right? You can select here, you can go to 2016. That's if you want it to be compatible with older Windows Server edition. We are not doing all of that. We'll leave it the same way it is. Make sure global catalog is checked. Make sure DNS server is also checked. So basically, the domain controller is also going to have its own DNS. So we'll leave it as it is and also create a password for the directory services restore mode. In case you want to do maybe you want to add an additional domain controller to this particular domain, you need this password. So I'm just going to set up this password. I'll hit next. Well, create DNS delegation, you don't have to worry about that. The domain controller is going to take care of all of these. Click on next. All right, on the NetBIOS domain name, just give it a moment. It's going to populate our domain name. Just watch. All right, there you go. We have our domain name populated. Hit next. You will be getting 3 parts where files and folders will be saved. You have the NTDS, you have the database file that will be saved in the NTDS folder. You have the log files, you can find them here, and the sys volume folders, that is where the system files are going to be saved. Hit next. All right, so we'll just review everything that we've set up. Nothing to do here. Hit next. This is the prerequisite check. It's going to tell you those things, the prerequisites that are met and those that are yet to be done. You don't have to worry about that. So we'll just go ahead and wait for it to do its thing. All right, as you can see. All right, let's click on install. This is also going to take a bit of a time. No rush. Let's allow it to do its thing. All right, fantastic. This server was successfully configured. Now you get an option to sign out. Click on close. Hit close. Now we've been able to promote this to a domain controller. All right, it's going to restart. Just allow it to do its thing. Give it some time. So now at this point, you can see that our domain Paul Ubertech is now on the screen, and this is the account that is currently logging, which is the admin account. So let's just select the password box, put in our password. Okay, we'll click on the tools, select Active Directory, users, and computer. Now you can see all of these options populated here. So click on Active Directory, users, and computers. Okay, now we have our Active Directory, and this is our domain controller. All right, if you expand this option, you see computers, you see users. You can go ahead and create OUs, that's organization units. Go to new, click on organization units. All right, you can give it a name. Let's call it Canada site, or let's say Canada HR, or Canada IT department. Click on OK. All right, there you have it. We want to create another OU, organization unit. Yeah, organization unit. And let's call this users. So we have users under IT, and we also want to create another one, which is for computers. Go to new, click on organization unit, and this is the organization unit that will house the computers that will be under this particular OU. All right, we have users, we have computers. Well, we can take the initiative to add one more users to this device. You can call that, let's go to new, go to users. We can call this Paul. I don't have to worry about the last name. The logon name will be Paul. Just hit next. Well, we don't want to change our password when we log in again. Just put in password never expire. Well, if you're doing this for a proper domain, you don't have to check this box, just leave it as it is. Yeah, so click on next, click on finish. All right, so now we have a user that is under the Canada IT department. This user is under this organization unit. So that's pretty much it about setting up the Active Directory, adding a computer, and also adding a user to this. All right, the next thing we want to do is we want to set up DNS on this computer. So let's launch the server manager Click on tools. You can launch the DNS from here. Now we have the DNS. All right, if you look right here, if you click on the drop down behind our domain controller, you can configure the forward looking zone, the forward lookup zone, and the reverse lookup zone. But since we have our Active Directory on our domain controller, I believe the forward lookup zone has already been configured by itself. Yeah, if you look right here, you'll notice that we have our domain, our DC, our domain controller, paulobertech.local. It is right here. And we also have the host A, which is the type of server that is running on it, and it has been populated with our domain controller IP address. All right, you can double click on it to see what it looks like. Okay, great. All right, I'm just going to go back one step. Now, for the reverse lookup zone, you can also configure the reverse lookup zone. You can get this configured. So this helps when we are trying to, find a host name using an IP address. You can right click, create a new zone. You can hit next. Make sure the primary zone is selected. That's what we are trying to do. Hit next. Now we want this DNS server to also be linked to our current domain, which is paulobertech.local. So we'll just make sure this is selected and click on next. All right, we are trying to configure the IPv4 reverse lookup zone. Hit next. All right, what's our network ID? Our network ID is 192.168.1. All right, that's all we need to do. All right, since we are using the subnet 24. All right, allow only secure dynamic updates. So this is what we'll be going with. We hit next since this is recommended for Active Directory. Click on next. All right, let's click on finish. All right, now our reverse lookup zone now has if you look here, okay, if I click on the drop down right behind it, you see this. Now the name server is populated with our domain controller. Okay, we can refresh it. All right, great. Now if I come back to my DC, my domain, the forward lookup zone, if I come back to my domain controller in the forward lookup zone, one of the things we can do here is to make sure that the pointer record is properly set up. So I can double click on this, check the box that says update associated pointer record. Click apply, click OK. All right, fantastic. Now if you come back here and refresh, you notice that the reverse lookup zone now also has the pointer record. Okay, that checks off fine. Come to properties. Yes. So if you go to the name server, you'll notice that our domain controller has the fully qualified domain name, which is called paulobertech.local. You want to click on edit right here. Once you click on edit, now resolve. Click on resolve to see if it validates. Fantastic. All right, now it validated. Okay, that looks great. It checks off great. Click on OK. Click on apply and OK. All right. Now we've been able to set up the DNS. The next thing we want to do is to configure our DHCP. Now let's launch our server manager. Now it's time for us to set up the DHCP server. Let's click on manage. It is yet to be installed. If you look right here, you won't see the DHCP. So we need to add roles and features. Click on next. We've gone through all of this previously. Make sure you're selecting the role-based or feature-based installation. Hit next. Make sure your domain controller is selected. Hit next. All right, so what we want to install now is the DHCP server. All right, these are the features that comes with the DHCP server. Add all of the features. Click on next. All right, you don't have to worry about all of this. Just go ahead and hit next. Click on next. Okay, now we can go ahead and click on install. All of these features will be added with the DHCP server. All right, now back on this screen, what we want to do is to launch the DHCP server. So what do? We minimize this. We minimize the server manager, then type right here DHCP server, DHCP. Right, just give it a moment for the index to search and populate. All right, so now that it's up, you can see this domain controller. And so basically what we want to do is to set up a new scope for the IPv4. So I'm just going to right click on it, new scope. All right, this is the scope wizard. I'm going to click on next. All right, let's just give it a name. We want to call it Paul IPv4. IPv4. All right, click on next. All right, we want to set up a start IP address and also an end IP address. So this will basically be the range of the IP address that would be assigned to our DHCP. All right, so let's call this 192.168.1. And just want to start from about, say, 50. Then the end IP address will be 192.168.1.200. So basically we'll be using 51 IP addresses, or we'll be able to list 51 addresses within this subnet. All right, I'll click on next. All right, do we want to add an exclusion? You add an exclusion if you have printers or access point that you want to configure. All right, you can just add some IP addresses that you want to exclude within this range. Well, we can just say from, let's exclude from 192.168.1 and from 50 up to 192.168.1 to 60. All right, so we are excluding the IP address from 50 to 60. That is 11 IP address. So if you want to configure access point, if you want to configure printer, you can pick from any of this IP address. Click on add. There you have it. All right, click on next. All right, so how long do we want this address to be leased to any device or client that connects to this device? The default is 8. We'll leave it as it is. Click on next. All right, yes, I want to configure these options now. All right, hit next. All right, to add a default gateway, the default gateway will be our router address. That's 192.168.1.1. All right, click on add. Hit next. All right, now we could see that our DNS is able to pick up our domain controller and our domain name. All right, so if you look at the address, picks it up. That's fine. All we need to do is just click on next. Win server, we don't have to bother about this. We can just hit next. Activate scope. Yes, we want to activate the scope right now. So make sure this yes is checked and then hit next. All right, click on finish. All right, fantastic. Now there you have it. This is the scope we just set up. This is the scope we just set up. Well, I can make this full screen. Here you'll find the address that has been listed out. If you double click, currently no address is listed out, so that's fine. We can leave it as it is right now. This is our reservation. We don't have any reservation at the moment. We don't have any reservation. This is our address pool. Our address pool is from 50 to 100, and we have excluded from 50 to 60. Okay, that's pretty much it about DHCP. Quick one, I have created a Windows 10 test device. So this is a client that I just set up. All right, so I want to see if our computer will be able to, get assigned an IP address from the DHCP. So what I'm just going to do right here is, let's go to the network adapter. All right, so I'm just going to open the network adapter. Click on network and internet settings. So once this pops up, then we need to select change adapter options. Change adapter options. All right. This was initially disabled. I disabled it. So what I just want to do real quick, let's open command prompt. I want to see if we have an IP address assigned to this machine, to this computer. I'll open command prompt. Let's put in ipconfig. Hit enter. All right, so right now nothing is detected, so we can minimize this. Okay, let's enable this network adapter. All right, our network adapter is now enabled. I'm going to click on refresh. All right, there you have it. Now you see it picks up our network. Let's click on yes. Okay, there we go. Okay, now let's run that command one more time. ipconfig, hit enter. Guys, as you can see, an IPv4 address has been listed out to this computer, and we've been assigned number 61. If you could recall earlier, a few minutes ago, we excluded from 50 to 60. All right, so this is the next available IP address, and that is what is being assigned to these clients. 61. Okay, that looks great. All right, so I'm just gonna close this right away, and then let's move over to the Windows server. Just gonna click on this tab, and this is the Windows server. Now, if we go to address list, let's see if we can see that new computer. All right, I'm just gonna click on the refresh button. There you go. Now you have it. The IP address just populates the clients. This Windows 10 client just showed up here. Now you see that. Okay, so guys, that's pretty much how to set up Windows Server 2025, set up the Active Directory, set up DHCP, and also DNS server. All right, guys, we've come to the end of today's tutorial. It will mean a whole lot to me if you hit the like button, also click on the subscribe button, and also share it among your communities, because that matters a whole lot. All right, thank you so much. Until we see you again, Have a fabulous rest of the day.